The first thing I noticed was the place setting. A clean white napkin folded into a stiff triangle, silverware lined up like it had been measured, a small votive candle doing its best to make the light feel warmer than it was. I'd arrived a few minutes early, so the table was still empty except for water glasses and a quiet hum of conversation from somewhere behind the bar. My sister leaned in while we waited, close enough that her perfume covered the smell of the restaurant. "Please," she said, not smiling. "Don't embarrass me tonight. Caleb's dad is a federal judge." I nodded once, like I'd heard her. I didn't argue. I didn't ask what she meant by embarrass. I'd learned a long time ago that my sister didn't use that word as a request. She used it like a warning. I kept my hands in my lap and looked at the menu like I might order something complicated. In reality, I was watching the front door. A few minutes later, a tall, older man walked in with the kind of posture you see in courtrooms and boardrooms. Calm face, steady pace. He scanned the room like it was a habit, not a performance. My sister's shoulders rose slightly, like she was bracing for an inspection. And then, before anyone even sat down, he looked straight at me. It wasn't a long look, just enough. Like he recognized me from somewhere I hadn't mentioned. That was the moment I knew the dinner wasn't going to go the way my sister had planned. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, quietly, with my phone face down on the table, waiting for the introductions to start and knowing I was going to have to make a decision I'd been avoiding for years. I'm Sophia Morales, 41 years old. My sister Vanessa is 44. Growing up outside Baltimore, Vanessa was the one who collected praise the way some people collect trophies. She was always in something: student government, debate, volunteer boards. She learned early that attention could be managed, directed, turned into a kind of power. I was the quieter one. I liked rules. I liked systems. I liked the simple comfort of doing the work and letting it speak for itself. That sounds neat when you say it out loud, but the truth is, I also learned to stay small because it made life easier. Not better, just easier. Our parents ran a tax and accounting practice that did well enough for a nice zip code, a reliable circle of friends, and a calendar full of dinners that always felt more like networking than family time. The house was always clean. The lawn was always trimmed. The conversations were always about outcomes. Vanessa married young. Then she divorced. Then she remarried. With each version of her life, she seemed to pick a new set of symbols: the right neighborhood, the right car, the right people to be seen with. Her social media stayed glossy and curated, even when the real-life edges were showing. I went to law school, but not the school Vanessa wanted me to go to. "You'll make me look bad," she told me once, like my choices were part of her resume. So I went to a state law program, took out loans, and worked nights. I did document review and intake shifts at a small firm. Nothing glamorous, just steady. It was the kind of work where you learn to keep your head down and your mouth shut. After I graduated, I clerked for a judge. Vanessa laughed when I told her. "A clerk," she said. "So you're basically a fancy assistant." I remember standing in my kitchen on that phone call, staring at a crack in the tile grout, and thinking, if I correct her, this turns into a whole thing. So I didn't. That became the pattern. Vanessa needed a story where she was ahead and I was behind. Correcting her didn't change her mind. It just made her sharper. What she didn't know, and what my parents didn't know, was that the judge I clerked for was someone who later moved into a very public national role, the kind of person who gets followed by staff and referenced by last name in the news, even when nobody uses their first name anymore. After my clerkship, I worked federal cases, first as a prosecutor, then in roles that kept me in the same buildings, the same courtrooms, the same quiet rhythm of procedure and record. I didn't post about it. I didn't talk about it at family dinners. If someone asked, I'd say, "I'm in federal criminal work," and let the conversation drift away. That was usually easy. Nobody in my family was interested in the details as long as it fit neatly into the category they'd already chosen for me. Vanessa told people I was Doing fine for a government lawyer. It wasn't exactly insulting. It was worse than that. It was dismissive, like a hand wave. By my early 30s, I was nominated to the federal bench. The process took time. The kind of time that makes you think about everything you've ever said, every form you've ever signed, every person who might be asked about you. It was background checks, interviews, quiet meetings in quiet rooms, and then a confirmation vote that I watched from a small office with the door closed. I didn't tell my family. Not because I wanted some dramatic reveal later. Not because I was trying to punish them. I didn't tell them because I already knew how it would go. Vanessa would treat it like a threat. My parents would treat it like a trophy they'd earned by proximity. And I wasn't willing to let my work become another stage for the same old competition. So I kept living the way I'd been living. I showed up, I did my job, I went home. Over the years, I built a quiet life. I bought a brick row house just outside the city, renovated it slowly, paid it off, kept my address off the internet as much as possible. I drove a practical sedan because it didn't stand out. It started every time. It didn't invite questions. I dated someone in my world, carefully, privately. The kind of relationship that doesn't belong on social media and doesn't need to. Meanwhile, Vanessa's life kept moving, always toward the next better. New circles, new goals, new men with new titles. When one relationship ended, she reframed it quickly. When one plan didn't work, she replaced it with a better one before anyone could question the first. Then she met Caleb. He was polished, ambitious, the kind of man who knew how to speak with certainty even when he wasn't saying much. Vanessa liked him immediately, but what she liked most, she admitted later, was his family. His father was a federal judge. The first time she told me, she said it like she was delivering news that would finally settle the score between us. Not just any judge, she added, voice lower. A federal judge. Their family is different. I just listened. Over the next few months, she made it her project to become what she thought that family expected. New charities, new wardrobe, new way of talking about vacations she hadn't taken yet, like she was already part of that world. And every so often, she'd call me and remind me of my place in her story. Don't talk about your job, she said. Don't bring up money. Just say you're in law. And please, Sophia, dress like you understand where you are. I told her calmly that I understood. Not because I agreed, but because I wanted the call to end. When the engagement dinner was scheduled, she sent the details like it was a summons. A restaurant near the waterfront, private room, cocktail attire. Nice cocktail attire, she texted. Not something you'd wear to court? I didn't respond. That night, I wore a simple dress I already owned. Nothing loud, nothing that needed attention. I drove my usual car and arrived on time because showing up late would have been its own story in Vanessa's head. She was already there. She stood when she saw me, grabbed my forearm lightly, and pulled me close like we were intimate. Okay, she said quietly, smiling through her teeth. They're not here yet. When they arrive, I'll handle it. Don't volunteer information about yourself. I won't, I said. And if anyone asks what you do, I'm in law, I said, because that was what she wanted to hear. She exhaled, relieved, as if she'd just secured a fragile arrangement. Our parents arrived next. My mother checked Vanessa's outfit like she was inspecting a display window. My father looked at me, then past me, like he was doing a quick inventory and deciding I was acceptable enough to ignore. My mother leaned in and said, almost the same words Vanessa had used. Let Vanessa lead tonight, she whispered. These are important people. I nodded again. Then the door opened, and Caleb walked in with his family. His mother moved with quiet confidence, a calm face and steady hands, the kind of person who doesn't need to dominate a room to be noticed. Caleb's sister followed, sharp suit, direct eyes, no wasted movements. And then his father stepped into the room. Tall, silver hair. The same measured expression I'd seen in courtrooms and judicial conferences. a man who listened more than he spoke. He scanned the room. His eyes landed on me. I saw recognition, immediate and unmistakable. Not surprise exactly, but a quick mental adjustment, like he was placing me correctly in a file he hadn't expected to open tonight. Vanessa didn't notice. She was too busy fixing her smile. Caleb's father started walking toward the table, hand already lifting for greetings. Vanessa leaned in one more time, low and fast. "Remember," she said. "Please, don't embarrass me." I didn't answer. I just watched him get closer, watched the moment approach like a door that was about to open, whether I reached for the handle or not. And then I waited. Judge Reynolds reached the table at the same time the server set down a basket of warm bread. The smell of yeast and butter rose up, softening the room for a second. Vanessa was already standing, arm looped through Caleb's like she needed the physical proof that she belonged there. "Dad, Mom," Caleb said, "this is Vanessa." His father shook her hand politely. No extra warmth, no coldness either. Just professional courtesy, the kind you give before you decide what kind of person you're dealing with. "And this is Vanessa's family," Caleb added, turning slightly. "Mr. and Mrs. Morales and her sister." Vanessa cut in fast. "This is my sister Sophie," she said. And then, like she was correcting herself, "Sophia. She works in law, government stuff." She said it quickly, the way you say something you don't want questions about. The judge's eyes stayed on mine a beat longer than normal. There was a moment, a quiet one, where he could have fixed it. He could have said my title. He could have said how we knew each other. He could have turned the whole evening into a straightforward introduction and spared everyone the slow, ugly unraveling. Instead, he simply nodded. "Sophia," he said, "good to see you." The words were controlled, neutral, but the meaning was clear enough. Vanessa didn't hear it, or maybe she didn't know how to hear it. She was already moving, already gesturing toward the seats like she was hosting the room. "Please," she said brightly, "let's sit. I asked for the round table so we could all talk." She guided Caleb into a chair and positioned herself between him and his father, like a barrier she didn't realize she was building. She placed me far enough away that I wouldn't be part of her main conversation, across from my parents, beside Caleb's sister, Lena. Lena gave me a small nod, not friendly exactly, but attentive. She was watching more than she was performing, which I appreciated. Once we sat down, the noise level dropped into that quiet restaurant hum. Ice in glasses, silverware touching plates, a laugh from another table that rose and fell like a wave. A server poured water and asked if we'd like sparkling or still. Vanessa answered for everyone. "Sparkling," she said. "We're celebrating." I let the water settle and kept my hands folded, my posture easy. I wasn't trying to disappear. I was trying to stay steady. Vanessa launched into the wedding talk like it was a script she'd rehearsed. "We're thinking September," she said, leaning forward. "Black tie, around 400 guests, maybe 5. We want it to feel elevated, you know?" Caleb's mother smiled politely, the way people do when they're listening but not buying. "That's a lot of guests," she said. Vanessa laughed like it was an achievement. "Well, Caleb's dad knows everyone," she said, and she tilted her head toward the judge. "I mean, you've been in all those circles. Washington, the courts. I'm sure you can't go anywhere without running into senators." The judge didn't react. He picked up his menu and looked at it, not because he needed to, but because it gave him a pause. "I know some people," he said finally. Vanessa didn't hear the limitation. "Exactly," she said. "Some people." My father smiled, proud like he'd made the connection himself. "We're very happy," he said. "Vanessa has always been driven." Vanessa's eyes flicked toward me. "Sophia has always been more simple," she added, her voice light. "She likes her little routines." My mother nodded along like she'd been trained. "She's content," my mother said. "Not everyone is ambitious." I stared at the candle for a second. The flame was steady. I focused on that. Lena's gaze shifted between Vanessa and me, not judgmental, more like she was checking the facts against the story being told out loud. The server returned to take drink orders. Vanessa ordered a specific wine, named the region, pronounced it cleanly, then laughed as if she'd just proven something. Caleb looked pleased. His mother didn't change expression. When the server walked away, Vanessa leaned toward Caleb's parents. "I've been telling Caleb so much about your family," she said. "The tradition, the accomplishment, it's inspiring. I've always respected people who actually do something with their lives." Again, her eyes flicked toward me like she couldn't resist. I kept my face neutral. The judge set his menu down and looked at Vanessa directly. "People do a lot with their lives," he said, calm. "Not all of it is visible." Vanessa smiled and nodded like she agreed, but she didn't absorb it. She was already moving to the next point, the venue, the photos, the band. Caleb's mother asked a question about the ceremony details. Vanessa answered with precision, like she'd already chosen everything and just needed approval. Then Lena turned slightly toward me. "So," she said quietly, like she didn't want to perform for the table, "what kind of law are you in?" Vanessa's head snapped. "She's government," she said too fast. "Court stuff. Nothing exciting." Lena didn't look away. "Government can mean a lot of things," she said. "What kind?" I could have dodged. I could have given Vanessa what she wanted. I could have said something vague and changed the subject. Instead, I said the truth, in the smallest possible way. "Federal criminal," I said. The judge's eyes lifted, just for a moment. Vanessa waved her hand. "See?" she said, laughing lightly. "Just cases, paperwork, she's fine with it." Lena didn't laugh. She didn't look impressed or unimpressed. She looked focused. "How long have you been doing that?" she asked. "A while," I said. Vanessa leaned forward, forcing the energy back toward herself. "So, Lena," she said brightly, "I saw you're in private equity or something? That's so impressive. I love women who go after big things." Lena didn't correct her. She simply nodded once, like she'd filed it away. The first course arrived. Something small arranged carefully on a wide plate. The kind of food that looks like a concept before it looks like dinner. Vanessa took a picture of it before touching her fork. Caleb's mother didn't. My father tried to impress the judge. It was subtle but obvious. He asked questions about how the courts are these days, and mentioned a friend who knows a senator, in a way that made it clear the friend was not actually close. The judge answered politely, short phrases, no openings. Then my father said something that shifted the temperature. "Well," he said, lifting his glass slightly, "the important thing is that at least one of our daughters is doing very well." He smiled at Vanessa. Vanessa's mouth curved with satisfaction. "It's true," my mother added. "Vanessa has always aimed high." Lena looked at me again, more directly now. "And you?" she asked. "What do you aim for?" It wasn't a dramatic question. It was calm, almost curious. But it landed hard because it exposed what had been happening at the table. Vanessa had been aiming, my parents had been praising, and I had been sitting there like background furniture. I didn't feel anger, I felt clarity. "I aim to do my job well," I said. Vanessa laughed, soft and dismissive. "See?" she said, like she was explaining me to them. "That's her. No ambition. She knows her limits." My hand stayed still. I didn't grip the fork. I didn't tense. I just watched the judge's face. His expression didn't change much, but I saw the line of his jaw tighten, the way it does when someone hears testimony that doesn't sit right. He set his fork down carefully. "Vanessa," he said, still calm, "what makes you think Sophia isn't successful?" The table went quiet in a normal way, like the room had simply paused. Vanessa blinked, then laughed like it was a misunderstanding. "Oh," she said, "I didn't mean it like that. She's fine. It's just, you know. She glanced at me, then at Caleb's mother, then back to the judge. She drives an old Toyota, she added, like that was evidence. She lives in a small place. She works government. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not the same. The judge didn't respond right away. Lena leaned back slightly in her chair, and I noticed something then. She had the posture of someone waiting for a fact to be spoken out loud. Like she already knew there was a mismatch and wanted to see who would admit it first. Caleb shifted, uncomfortable. His mother's eyes lowered to her plate, and she took a slow sip of water. My parents were quiet too, not because they sensed danger, but because they didn't know how to talk when the script changed. The judge looked at me briefly, a question in his eyes, not forceful, a simple one. Are you going to keep letting this stand? I didn't answer out loud. I just picked up my fork, took a small bite, and let the silence do what silence sometimes does. It made room. And in that room, Lena spoke again, her voice low but clear. Sophia, she said, what's your title? Vanessa snapped her head toward her. Why does that matter? She said quickly. Can we not turn this into an interview? We're here to celebrate. Lena didn't flinch. It matters, she said. The judge's gaze stayed steady. It does, he agreed. I looked at Vanessa, then at my parents, then back at my plate. And I realized, with a kind of tired calm, that I was either going to keep carrying their version of me, or I was going to put it down right here, in this quiet room, with the bread cooling and the candle burning low. I set my fork down. Then I waited. The room stayed quiet long enough that I could hear the ice settle in someone's glass. Vanessa kept smiling, but it was the kind of smile that sits too high on the face. Caleb stared at the tablecloth, like he was trying to disappear into it. My mother's hands were folded tightly in her lap. My father's shoulders were squared, like he was preparing to defend something he didn't fully understand. Lena didn't look away from me. What's your title? She asked again, not loud, not aggressive, just steady. Vanessa exhaled sharply. This is ridiculous, she said. She's in law, government law. That's the answer. The judge's voice came in calm, even. Let her answer. It wasn't a command exactly, but everyone treated it like one. I looked at Vanessa for a moment. I saw the fear under the control. Not fear of me, really. Fear of losing the story she'd been telling. I didn't feel triumph. I felt tired. The kind of tired that comes after years of keeping something simple for other people. I'm a United States District Judge, I said. District of Maryland. I said it the same way I'd say the weather. Clear, factual, no extra emphasis. For a beat, nobody reacted. Sometimes people need a second to translate words into meaning. Then Vanessa made a short sound, almost like a laugh, but it didn't carry. No, she said, shaking her head once. No, you're not. Lena's face didn't change. Caleb's mother lowered her eyes, as if she was suddenly very aware of the room. My father blinked slowly. My mother whispered, "What?" Vanessa leaned forward, voice rising just enough that it wasn't polite anymore. "Sophia, stop," she said. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," I said. Vanessa's laugh came again, thinner this time. "Federal judges are appointed by the president," she said, like she'd discovered a flaw in my statement. "Confirmed by the Senate. They don't just become judges. You'd have told us." The judge spoke before I did, still calm. "She's right about the process." Vanessa turned to him immediately, desperate for support. "Thank you," she said. "Exactly." He didn't smile. "And Sophia went through it," he continued. Vanessa froze. The candle flame flickered once, like it had caught the shift in the air. Lena reached into her small handbag and pulled out her phone, already unlocking it. She didn't make a show of it. She didn't glance at Vanessa for permission. She just typed as if she was confirming a schedule. I didn't stop her. I didn't need to. Vanessa looked between Lena and me. You're all in on this, she said, voice tight. This is some weird joke. Lena turned her phone slightly, not dramatic, just practical. A simple search result. My name, my title, a photograph from a formal event, me in black robes, standing beside other judges, the seal behind us. Nothing glamorous, just official. My mother leaned in first, like she couldn't help herself. Her hand rose toward the phone but didn't touch it. Then she took it anyway, gently, the way you take something fragile. That's... she started, then stopped. My father leaned over her shoulder. What is that? He asked, but his voice had changed. It wasn't skeptical anymore. It was uncertain. My mother scrolled with her thumb. Her breathing shifted, small and fast. There are articles, she said quietly. Court rulings, profiles. Vanessa's face went pale, then flushed, then pale again. Her mouth opened as if she could force the world back into place by insisting. That could be anyone, she said. That's not proof. It's proof, Lena said, still calm. Caleb finally looked up, eyes moving between me and his father. Dad, he said slowly. You know her. The judge nodded once. Yes. How? Caleb asked. The judge didn't embellish. We've served on committees together, he said. We've been on panels. I've read her opinions. I've watched her run a courtroom. Vanessa stared at Caleb, then at his father. You never told me, she said, voice cracking. You never said you knew her. The judge didn't move. You never asked, he said. That landed like a clean blow, not because it was sharp, but because it was true. Vanessa turned to my parents, looking for rescue. That was her instinct. When she lost control, she grabbed for the nearest authority she thought would restore it. Mom, she said. Dad, tell them she's lying. She told us she was just a government attorney. My mother's eyes stayed on the phone. Her lips moved as she read. My father's face had drained of color. She's listed, he said, voice low. Her salary, her financial disclosure. My mother made a small sound, half sob, half disbelief. Sophia, she whispered, why didn't you tell us? I didn't answer right away, not because I didn't have an answer, because I wanted to choose my words carefully. Vanessa cut in, voice sharp. Because she wanted this, she said. She wanted to humiliate me. She's always been jealous. I looked at Vanessa, steady. I wasn't jealous, I said. I was quiet. That's the same thing, she snapped. It isn't, I said. The judge cleared his throat softly, not impatient, just present. Sophia, he asked, how long have you been on the bench? I didn't look at Vanessa when I answered. I looked at him. 12 years, I said. Confirmed in 2013. Caleb's mother inhaled slowly, as if she was trying to stay composed. 12 years, she repeated under her breath. My father sank back in his chair like the number had weight. 12 years, he said, like he couldn't grasp the time. And we didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. Vanessa slammed her hand lightly on the table. Not a bang, more like a short, frustrated impact. That's not fair, she said. You could have corrected us. I nodded slightly. I could have, I said. But I didn't. Why? She demanded. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't match her energy. I kept it even. Because every time I tried to tell you anything real about my life, I said, you treated it like something small. Vanessa scoffed. That's not true. It is, I said. You called my clerkship a secretary job. You told people I was doing fine for a government lawyer. You told me not to talk about work tonight because you didn't want me embarrassing you. My mother's eyes filled. My father stared at his plate. Vanessa's head turned sharply. You're twisting things, she said. I was protecting you. This isn't your world, Sophia. You don't understand the circles Caleb's family moves in. Lena's voice came in, quiet but firm. She understands, she said. You don't. Vanessa swung toward her. Excuse me? Lena didn't blink. You've been talking about judges like they're decorations, she said. Like titles are accessories. You're sitting next to one of the most serious people in this room and you haven't noticed. The judge didn't react outwardly, but I saw the small approval in his eyes. Not satisfaction, just recognition that Lena had called it correctly. Caleb's face was tight now, not angry, more unsettled. Vanessa, he said softly, did you really tell me she was struggling? Vanessa's eyes widened. I didn't say struggling, she said quickly. I said, she lives modestly. She's not ambitious. She's fine. Caleb looked at my parents. Is that what you thought? He asked. My mother looked up, tears on her cheeks. We thought she was just, she said, and couldn't finish the sentence. My father swallowed. She never talked about it, he said, as if that explained everything. I nodded. I did talk, I said, in the only way I knew you would tolerate. I said federal, I said criminal, I said court. I assumed if you cared, you'd ask a follow-up question. Vanessa's voice rose again, edging toward panic. So you hid it, she said. You hid being a judge. I kept my life private, I said. That's hiding, she insisted. The judge's voice came in colder now, still controlled, but unmistakably firm. Privacy is not deception, he said, and it is not unusual in our line of work. Vanessa stared at him like she'd been slapped. Caleb's mother finally spoke, quietly. Vanessa, she said, why would you describe your sister as a failure if you didn't know anything about her career? Vanessa turned toward her, hands opening like she could physically shape the answer. I didn't say failure, she said. I said she's ordinary. There's nothing wrong with ordinary. Some people are just… She stopped, because the room had changed. Nobody was nodding, nobody was laughing, nobody was agreeing with her. My mother's gaze drifted back down to the phone again, like she couldn't stop reading. Sophia, she whispered, this says you own a home. I didn't respond immediately. My father leaned forward, eyes fixed. It says a row house, he said, voice flat. Paid off. Vanessa's mouth opened. You own a house? She said. You told us you lived in an apartment. I never said apartment, I said. You said apartment. Vanessa's eyes flashed. And the car, she said, voice trembling. You drive that old Toyota like you're broke. I nodded once. It's reliable, I said. Lena let out a small breath that sounded like a laugh, but it wasn't unkind. Of course it is, she said. Vanessa turned toward my parents again, frantic now. You're just going to sit there? She demanded. She let us look stupid. She made me look stupid in front of them. I watched her, calm. You made yourself look stupid, I said. The words were simple, not loud, not dramatic, just accurate. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, and for a second she looked like someone who didn't know where to put her feelings. Like the floor had moved under her, and she was still reaching for something solid. Caleb pushed his chair back slightly, just an inch, like he needed space to think. His mother set her napkin down carefully, as if she was resetting the table back into order. The judge looked at me again, a question in his expression. Not, are you okay? Not yet. More like, are you ready to go further? Because this was only the first shift. The title had been spoken. The confirmation had happened. The lie, if there was one, had been exposed as something Vanessa had built with her own assumptions. But the real story wasn't my job title. It was how long everyone had been comfortable with me being less. The server appeared at the doorway with the next course, paused, read the room, and quietly backed away. And in that quiet, with the plates untouched and everyone suddenly unsure where to look, I felt the familiar choice rise again. I could smooth it over, I could make this easier, or I could finally stop managing the version of me they preferred. I took a slow breath, then I reached for my phone. I didn't unlock my phone to show off anything. I opened it because it was the simplest way to stop the spinning. Vanessa was starting to talk fast, saying the same few points in different shapes. That I'd tricked everyone. That I'd set her up. That I'd waited for this moment. My parents were stuck between shame and confusion. Caleb looked like he was watching a person he thought he knew become someone else in real time. If I let it stay emotional, it would turn into a debate, a shouting match, a pile of half-true memories, all competing for the loudest spot. So I did what I do when things get messy. I organized it. I set my phone on the table, screen facing up, but angled toward me. I didn't hand it around. I didn't wave it. I just placed it there like a file folder. Then I spoke in the same calm tone I use in court when a room needs structure. "Let's slow down," I said. "We can do this in order." Vanessa scoffed. "Oh, please, don't turn dinner into a courtroom." I nodded once. "I'm not," I said. "I'm turning it into something clear." The judge watched me closely. Lena's eyes didn't leave my face. Caleb's mother looked relieved, like she'd been waiting for an adult to take control without humiliating anyone further. I continued. "Step 1, I said. We separate what I said from what you assumed." Vanessa opened her mouth, but I held up one finger. Not rude, just firm. "I'm going to finish," I said. Her jaw clenched. She stayed quiet. "Here's what I said over the years," I continued. "I work in federal criminal law. I'm in court. I handle cases. That is all true." My mother whispered, "But we thought you were a prosecutor." "I was," I said, "before I took the bench." My father's eyes stayed fixed on the table, like looking at me was too much. "Step 2, I said. "We look at what you said about me." Vanessa's face tightened immediately. "I didn't say anything bad," she snapped. I didn't react to the tone. I kept going. "I'm not asking for opinions," I said. "I'm talking about words." I unlocked my phone and opened a text thread. Vanessa's name at the top. A long history of messages, most of them from her, most of them instructions. I scrolled a few lines, then stopped. I read one message out loud, calmly, without emphasis. "Please try to dress appropriately. His family is used to a certain level of sophistication. I know that's not your world, but just do your best." Vanessa's face went red. "That's not what I meant," she said quickly. "I was trying to help you." I nodded slightly. "Maybe," I said. "But that's what you said." I scrolled again and read another. "Do not talk about your job. If anyone asks, just say you're in law. Please don't embarrass me." My mother made a small sound, like a breath caught. Vanessa shook her head, fast. "You're cherry-picking," she said. I kept my voice even. "Step 3, I said. We look at what happened tonight." I glanced at Caleb's mother briefly, then back to the table. "Vanessa introduced me as government law, nothing exciting," I said. "You called my work low-level. You described my life as small and limited. You did that in front of your future in-laws." Vanessa laughed, sharp and brittle. "I was making conversation," she said. "You're making it sound evil." "I'm making it sound accurate," I said. The judge didn't interrupt. He let the facts sit, which told me he understood exactly what I was doing. Vanessa turned toward him, pleading. "Judge, you can't seriously sit here and let her do this. This is humiliating." His voice was calm, but colder now. "No one humiliated you," he said. "You spoke. People listened." Vanessa's eyes filled again, and for a second I saw something else under the anger. Not guilt, panic, like she could feel her identity slipping and didn't know what to grab. Caleb finally spoke, quiet but firm. "Vanessa," he said, Why would you tell me your sister was barely getting by? Vanessa swung toward him. I didn't, she said immediately. I said she chose a simple life. Caleb's mouth tightened. You said she couldn't afford nice things, he said. You said her apartment was small. You said she drove an old car because she had to. Vanessa's eyes widened like she couldn't believe he remembered. I was explaining, she said. You were selling a story, Lena said softly. Vanessa turned on Lena again. Stay out of this, she snapped. Lena didn't move. I've been in it for months, she said. You brought me into it every time you talked about how you were the accomplished one, and your sister was the sad contrast. The room went quiet again. Even my parents looked up at that. Vanessa's voice thinned. I never said sad. Lena's gaze stayed steady. You didn't have to, she said. My mother wiped at her cheek, still crying quietly. My father finally looked at me, really looked, and there was something almost childlike in his face, like he didn't know how this could exist without him knowing. Sophia, he said, voice rough, why didn't you tell us? We would have been proud. I didn't answer right away. I glanced down at my phone again, then back up. That's the part I need you to hear, I said. My tone didn't change. It stayed calm, but it sharpened, the way it does when I'm stating a ruling. You weren't proud of me when you thought I was a clerk, I said. You weren't proud of me when you thought I was a prosecutor. You weren't curious about my life. You were comfortable with a version of me that made Vanessa feel better. My mother shook her head, crying harder now. That's not true, she whispered. I nodded once. Okay, I said. Then tell me something. I looked at her gently. Name one case I've worked on. Name one court I've been in. Name one thing you asked me about my work in the last 10 years. She opened her mouth, then closed it. My father stared at his hands. Vanessa spoke over them, voice rising again. You're doing this to punish us, she said. You're enjoying this. I didn't even blink. No, I said. I'm ending it. Caleb's mother's eyes lifted toward me. She didn't look offended. She looked thoughtful. Ending what? She asked quietly. I took a breath. The arrangement, I said, where I stay small so Vanessa can feel big. Vanessa's chair scraped slightly as she shifted. That's not an arrangement, she snapped. That's your choice. You chose to be private. I chose privacy, I said. You chose to fill the silence with assumptions. Lena glanced down at her phone again, then looked up. There's another layer, she said, voice careful. Vanessa whipped her head toward her. What now? Lena hesitated like she didn't want to add fuel, but couldn't ignore what she'd already seen. Sophia's financial disclosures are public, she said. I'm not telling anyone numbers for entertainment, but Vanessa, you made a point of calling her broke. That's not true. My mother looked startled, like she hadn't even considered that part. My father leaned forward again, voice low. How much does a federal judge make? He asked, almost to himself. The judge answered, simple, factual. Federal judicial salaries are public, he said. Enough to live comfortably, especially with time and discipline. Vanessa stared at me. So you had money, she said. And you let us treat you like you didn't. I nodded slightly. I let you treat me the way you already wanted to treat me, I said. Her eyes narrowed, anger finding a new target. You let me pay for your dinner last Christmas, she said. You let me. I remembered that night clearly. The restaurant, the loud talking, Vanessa announcing to the table that she'd cover it because she was doing so well. I kept my tone steady. You insisted, I said. You said, and I remember it, I know money's tight for you. I said thank you. Vanessa's hands trembled. That's sick, she said. That's manipulative. The judge's voice came in again, measured. It's not manipulative to accept what someone insists on giving while they speak down to you, he said. It's complicated, but it's not manipulation. Caleb sat very still now. His eyes were fixed on Vanessa like he was seeing years of smaller moments all lining up. My mother looked at Vanessa, then back at me, and I could tell she was realizing something painful. It wasn't just that she didn't know my title. It was that she didn't know my life. I didn't push further. Not yet. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want them cornered into apologies they didn't understand. So I did the simplest thing. I locked my phone and set it down again. "Here's where we are," I said. "I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to defend my career like it's a rumor. The facts are public. The people at this table who work in this world already know what it means." Vanessa's breath came quick. "And what do you want?" she demanded. I looked at her, calm. "I want you to stop using me as your comparison," I said. "Stop introducing me like I'm an apology. Stop telling people I'm less so you can feel like more." Vanessa's lips parted, then pressed together. Caleb's mother's voice was quiet. "Vanessa," she said, "can you do that?" Vanessa didn't answer. She stared at the candle like it had betrayed her. The judge shifted slightly in his chair, and I could see he was deciding whether to end the dinner or let it continue. He was weighing dignity, damage control, what was still salvageable. Then my father's phone buzzed on the table, a small sound, but it cut through the silence. He looked down, read whatever was there, and his face changed again. He swallowed. "Sophia," he said quietly, "someone from the club just texted me." My mother turned toward him. "What?" He looked up, eyes wide and embarrassed. "They sent a link," he said. "An article. About you." He hesitated, then added, almost inaudible. They wrote, "Did you know David Morales' daughter is a federal judge?" Vanessa went completely still, and I didn't say anything. I just sat there, calm, listening to the room breathe, knowing the next part wasn't going to be about my job at all. It was going to be about what my parents cared about, when they finally had something to lose. My father kept staring at his phone like it was a foreign object. My mother leaned toward him, whispering, "Let me see," but he didn't hand it over right away. He read it again, as if the words might change if he looked long enough. Vanessa's head turned slowly in my direction. The earlier anger had shifted. It was still there, but it wasn't leading anymore. Something else was. Fear. Not of me. Of what this meant for her image, her story, her standing. She took a breath that sounded shallow. "So that's it," she said. "Now everyone knows. Great." Caleb's mother didn't look at Vanessa. She looked at my parents, then at me, like she was taking stock of the whole pattern, not just the moment. The judge spoke first, controlled. "David," he said to my father, "you might want to put your phone away for now." My father nodded too quickly, embarrassed, and set the phone face down as if that would erase what it said. Vanessa's voice rose. "No," she said. "Why should he? Why should anyone? She's been hiding this like it's some big secret." I didn't answer. I waited. I let her words hang long enough that they didn't have my reaction to lean on. Then I spoke, quiet and even. "I didn't hide it for drama," I said. "I kept it private because my life requires privacy." Vanessa laughed once, sharp. "Oh, please, you kept it private because you wanted to watch me fall on my face." I turned my head slightly toward her, not confrontational, just direct. "If that's what you need to believe," I said, "you can." It wasn't a jab. It was a boundary. A refusal to wrestle over her narrative. Vanessa's mouth opened again, then closed. She looked briefly stunned that I didn't engage. Caleb finally spoke, voice steady but strained. "Vanessa," he said, "did you know?" She snapped toward him. "No," she said immediately. "Of course I didn't." She lied. I didn't correct her. I just let the room absorb it. The judge looked at Vanessa. "Your sister didn't lie," he said. You made assumptions and you repeated them. Vanessa's eyes widened. Are you serious? She said to him, almost pleading. You watched her sit here while I introduced her like she's nothing. You let her do this. His tone stayed level. I didn't let anyone do anything, he said. You chose your words, and Sophia chose when to correct them. Vanessa turned to Caleb's mother, searching for sympathy. You understand, right? She said. This makes me look awful. I've been talking about my sister for months, and now I find out she's a federal judge, Lena said quietly, finishing it for her. Vanessa's face tightened again. Yes, she said, and she let me. She let me look stupid. Caleb's mother didn't flinch. Vanessa, she said softly, I'm more concerned about why you were comfortable describing your own sister as stupid. Vanessa stared at her. You described her as a disappointment, Lena said, still calm. You described her as ordinary, as someone to be managed. That's what's bothering us. Caleb's face stayed fixed on Vanessa. You told me she was barely getting by, he said. You told me she was embarrassed of her life. Vanessa shook her head quickly. I was trying to explain her, she said, voice tightening. She's always been private. She never wants to be part of anything. She's never wanted more. My mother spoke through tears, but her voice was firm for the first time all night. Vanessa, she said, stop. It wasn't loud, but it was real. Vanessa turned toward her, shocked. Mom, she said, don't take her side. She did this to me. My mother's lips trembled. She's your sister, she said. Why were you talking about her like that? Vanessa looked at my father as if he would restore order. My father swallowed. I didn't realize, he said, still pale. Sophia, we didn't realize. I nodded once. I know, I said. The judge's gaze stayed steady. Lena's eyes were on Vanessa. Caleb looked like he was holding something heavy in his chest, trying not to drop it. Vanessa took a breath and tried a different angle, softer now. Sophia, she said, why wouldn't you tell me? I'm your sister. I held her gaze, calm. Because you didn't want to know, I said. Her face tightened. That's not true. It is, I said. You wanted a version of me that didn't compete with you. You wanted a version of me that made you look better by comparison. Vanessa's voice went high. I didn't do that. I nodded slightly. You're doing it right now, I said. Your first concern wasn't that I had a career you didn't know about. Your first concern was what this makes you look like. Vanessa flinched as if I'd raised my hand. I hadn't. I hadn't moved at all. Caleb's mother let out a slow breath. She looked tired, not angry. Tired. The judge spoke again, careful. This dinner is not productive, he said. We should consider ending it. Vanessa's head snapped. No, she said, voice shaking. No, we're not ending it. I need to understand why she would do this, why she would sit there and let me. Her words broke apart. Lena watched her. You're saying, let me a lot, she said softly. That's interesting. Vanessa turned on her. What does that mean? Lena didn't raise her voice. It means you believe everyone is responsible for managing how you look, she said, including your sister. The room went still again. Even the restaurant noise felt quieter, like the walls had thickened. Vanessa's hands were trembling openly now. Caleb looked down, then back up. Vanessa, he said, how long have you been talking about her like that? Vanessa shook her head, blinking hard. I don't know, she whispered. I didn't think it mattered. She never cared. I answered, calm. I cared, I said. I just didn't fight you about it. Vanessa's eyes darted toward me, then away. My father's voice came out rough. Sophia, he said, we should have known. We should have asked. I'm sorry. It was the first apology I'd heard all night. It wasn't polished. It wasn't strategic. It was just a man realizing he'd been living with a blind spot and calling it what it was. My mother covered her mouth, crying. Vanessa stared at them, disbelief turning into panic. "You're apologizing to her?" she said. "After what she did?" My father looked at her, and for a moment he looked like he didn't recognize his own daughter. "What she did?" he repeated. "Vanessa, what did she do?" "She told the truth." Vanessa's breath hitched. "She didn't tell us for years," she said. "She kept us in the dark." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I did." Vanessa's eyes flashed with something like triumph, like she'd found the key. "There," she said. "So you admit it. You kept it from us. You wanted us to look foolish." I didn't argue. I just spoke plainly. "I kept it from you because you didn't treat me well when you thought I was smaller," I said. "And I didn't trust that you'd treat me well when you knew I was larger." Vanessa stared at me. "That's not fair," she whispered. I nodded once. "It's honest," I said. The judge's gaze softened slightly, and I saw something like respect there. Not for my title, for the restraint. Caleb's mother looked at Vanessa again. "Vanessa," she said quietly, "do you understand what your sister is saying?" Vanessa shook her head, tears falling now. "She's saying I'm a bad person," she said. I answered immediately, still calm. "No," I said. "I'm saying you've built a habit of needing someone beneath you, and I'm not doing that anymore." Vanessa's chest rose and fell quickly. "So what now?" she demanded, voice cracking. "You're just going to walk away? You're going to ruin my engagement?" The judge spoke, firm. "No one ruined anything tonight," he said. "What happened tonight revealed something." Caleb didn't look at his father. He looked at Vanessa. "Vanessa," he said, voice low, "I need to know something." She turned to him, hopeful for a second, like this was where he would defend her. He didn't. "Do you actually respect your sister?" he asked. Vanessa froze. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me, then at my parents, then at Caleb's mother, like she was searching for the correct answer the way she'd search for the correct outfit. And in that pause, I saw the truth in a way that didn't require words. Vanessa didn't know how to respect me without losing her place. I didn't wait for her to answer. I picked up my purse calmly, not dramatically. Just the simple motion of ending a meeting that had run its course. "I'm going to leave," I said. My mother's head snapped up. "Sophia, wait," she said, voice pleading. My father stood halfway, then stopped, unsure. The judge nodded once, like he understood. Lena pushed her chair back immediately. "I'll walk you out," she said. Vanessa's voice rose, strained. "You can't just leave," she said. "Not after this. Not after you—" I looked at her steady. "I can," I said. "And I am." Then I walked out of the private room with Lena beside me, the restaurant noise returning in waves as the door closed behind us. The hallway felt cooler. The air smelled faintly like citrus cleaner and warm bread. We reached the front entrance, and I felt my phone buzz in my purse. I didn't check it yet. I just kept walking toward the parking lot, knowing whatever was coming next would not be quiet. Outside, the air was cooler, and the noise softened into traffic and distant voices. My car was parked under a streetlight that made the paint look a little duller than it really was. I didn't mind. I liked not being noticed. I liked things that didn't invite commentary. Lena stopped beside me and leaned lightly against the passenger door, like she wasn't sure whether to speak first or let me have silence. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm getting there," I said. She nodded once, as if that answer made sense. For a moment, neither of us said anything. I could hear the restaurant door open and close behind us, the small rush of warm air each time someone came out. Then Lena spoke, careful. "I'm going to be honest," she said. "I recognized your name before tonight." I looked at her. She held my gaze, steady. "Vanessa has been talking about you for months," she said. "I Googled you a while back. I thought she was exaggerating when she called you. Nothing. It didn't add up. I nodded. That didn't surprise me. You didn't say anything, I said. I wanted to see what would happen, she admitted. Not to be cruel. I wanted to see if you were hiding by choice or if your family genuinely didn't see you. Both, I said. Lena let out a quiet breath. My dad didn't want tonight to blow up, she said. But he also didn't want you to keep sitting there being dismissed. I know, I said. She glanced back at the restaurant. My brother, she said, and paused. Caleb looked like he'd been hit. Not angry, just reevaluating. I didn't answer right away. I didn't feel good about that part. Caleb didn't deserve a public lesson. But he had walked into a story Vanessa had been feeding him for months, and now he was seeing the cost of it. Lena's phone buzzed. She looked down once, then back up. They're still in there, she said. My mom is trying to end it politely. Vanessa is not cooperating. I opened my door and set my purse on the seat, then leaned against the frame instead of getting in. The night air felt clean compared to the warm, staged room we'd just left. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked it. Missed calls, messages. My mother, my father, Vanessa. Vanessa's messages were fast, one after another. You did this on purpose. You made me look like a monster. Call me. Fix this. Now. My father's was shorter. Sophia, we need to talk. This was not appropriate. My mother's was a voice note. I didn't play it. I didn't feel angry reading them. I felt a strange kind of emptiness, like my body had been carrying a familiar tension and finally set it down, and now there was a quiet space where it used to be. Lena watched my face as I read. They're blaming you, she said. Of course, I said. It's easier. She hesitated. You know what the hard part is? She asked. What? My dad doesn't like being surprised, she said. He likes order. He likes fairness. And he also takes cruelty very personally, especially when it's casual. I nodded once. What happens now? I asked. Lena's mouth tightened slightly. I don't know, she said. But I know this. Caleb is going to ask questions he didn't ask before. We stood there another moment. Then the restaurant door opened again. Caleb came out. He didn't look at Lena first. He looked at me. His face was pale, jaw tight, eyes fixed like he was trying to keep himself steady. Sophia, he said. I nodded. Caleb. He took a breath. I'm sorry, he said, for how she spoke about you, for what she said in there. I didn't rush to comfort him. I didn't make it easier for him than it needed to be. I just let him speak. I didn't know, he added. I didn't know she'd been doing it like that. I held his gaze. You knew what she told you, I said. He nodded slowly. I did, he said. And I didn't question it because it fit what she wanted me to believe. That's honest, I said. He looked down, then back up. My dad wants to talk to you, he said. Not tonight, but soon. I nodded. Okay. Caleb hesitated. I don't know what to do, he said quietly. I love her, but tonight felt like finding out someone has been speaking a language you don't understand. Lena didn't jump in. She let her brother have his moment. I answered calmly. You're going to do what you think is right, I said, and you're going to live with it. He swallowed. Did you plan this? He asked. No, I said. I planned to keep quiet. Vanessa made that impossible. He nodded like that was the answer he needed. Caleb went back inside. Lena looked at me. You're calmer than I expected, she said. I'm practiced, I said. She gave a small, tired smile. Yeah, she said. I can see that. I got into my car, started it, and let the engine settle. The dashboard light glowed softly. I didn't put music on. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there for a few seconds and let myself breathe. Then I drove home. My row house was a few miles away, on a quiet street where most of the lights were off by 10. I pulled into my driveway, shut the car off, and sat for another moment with my hands on the steering wheel. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. Inside, the house smelled faintly like lemon cleaner and old wood, the way it always did after I wiped down the counters. I set my keys in the same dish by the door, took off my shoes, and poured myself water instead of wine. My phone buzzed again. More messages. Vanessa was spiraling now. He's reconsidering. His parents think I'm horrible. This is your fault. Fix it. My mother sent another text. Please call me. We didn't know. We would have been proud. My father sent one more. You embarrassed the family. You need to apologize to your sister. I read them once. I didn't respond. I went upstairs, changed into a soft sweatshirt, and tied my hair back. Then I made tea. Chamomile. I let it steep a little too long because I wasn't paying attention. When I sat down at my kitchen table, I did what I always do when a situation gets complicated. I reviewed the facts, not for revenge, for clarity, timeline. I'd been confirmed in 2013. I'd taken senior status recently enough that my schedule was lighter, but my work was still public, still documented. Vanessa's engagement had started 6 months ago. Her calls, the instructions, the warnings, the way she spoke about Caleb's family as if they were trophies to be won, my parents' silence, their willingness to let Vanessa define me, the dinner, the moment my father's phone buzzed with a message from his club. That last piece mattered more than it should have, and I knew it. Not because it changed anything about me, but because it exposed what moved my parents fastest. Recognition from strangers. My phone rang. A private number. I answered. This is Sophia, I said, a calm voice on the other end. Sophia, Judge Reynolds said. I hope I'm not calling too late. You're not, I said. He was quiet for a beat. I want to apologize, he said, for letting that dinner unfold. I could have corrected the introduction early. You didn't need to, I said. It needed to come from me. He exhaled, like he'd been holding tension. My wife is upset, he said. Not with you. With what we witnessed. I understand, I said. He paused. I'm calling as Caleb's father, he said. He's in love with your sister, but he's also just learned that the woman he's planning to marry can be cruel. I didn't correct his wording. I didn't soften it. I let him name it. He asked me tonight, the judge continued, if people can change. I took a slow sip of tea. What did you tell him? I asked. I told him change is possible, he said, but it requires ownership, not blame. And what I saw tonight was blame, not ownership. I stayed quiet, listening. Then I said simply, that sounds right. He spoke again, careful. Sophia, you are not responsible for what happened, he said. Vanessa's words are hers. Your parents' assumptions are theirs. Caleb will make his decision. I know, I said. He hesitated. Will you speak to your sister? He asked. I didn't answer immediately. I looked around my kitchen, the clean counters, the tea mug, the quiet, the order. I'll speak to her when she's ready to speak without trying to make me responsible for her choices, I said. The judge was quiet for a moment. That's a wise boundary, he said. I didn't react to the compliment. I just accepted it as confirmation that the boundary made sense. He continued. My daughter mentioned you might be willing to help with a judicial task group we're forming, he said, not as a favor, as a professional invitation. I appreciate that, I said. And yes, I'll consider it. He exhaled again, softer. Good, he said. Sophia, I'm proud to be your colleague. I felt something loosen in my chest, not because I needed his approval, but because it was clean. It didn't come with conditions. It didn't come with comparison. Thank you, I said. We ended the call. I set my phone down on the table and stared at it for a moment. Then I turned it over, face down, and I went back to my tea. The next morning, My clerk knocked on my office door while I was reviewing a stack of briefs. "Judge," she said, "there's a woman in the lobby asking for you." I didn't look up right away. "What's her name?" I asked. The clerk hesitated, like she wasn't sure whether to say it. "Vanessa Morales," she said. "She says she's your sister." I set my pen down. "Send her in," I said. Then I waited. Vanessa walked into my chambers like she didn't belong there. Not because she wasn't allowed, but because she had never pictured me in a room like this. She'd pictured me in the background of her life, not sitting behind a desk with a seal on the wall and a clerk outside the door. She looked worn down. No designer dress, no bright smile. Just jeans, a faded sweatshirt, hair pulled back without effort. Her eyes were red around the edges like she'd slept badly for a few nights in a row. She closed the door behind her and stood there, looking around. The law books, the framed degrees, a simple photograph on the shelf from a judicial conference, a stack of case files lined up neatly in the corner. "This is really your office," she said quietly. "Yes," I said. She nodded once like she was trying to accept something physical. "You're really a judge," she said again. "Yes." I didn't invite her to sit right away. I let her stand there long enough that she had to decide whether she came to perform or to speak. Finally, I gestured to the chair across from me. "Sit," I said. She sat slowly, her hands folded and unfolded in her lap, like she couldn't find a comfortable place to keep them. For a moment, she didn't talk. She stared at my desk as if she expected to find a clue there that explained how this happened without her knowing. Then she lifted her eyes to mine. "Caleb ended the engagement," she said. I nodded once. "I heard," I said. Her face tightened, and the old instinct came up fast. "You got what you wanted," she said. "You humiliated me. You destroyed everything." I didn't react to the accusation. I didn't correct her tone. I just stayed calm and let the statement sit on its own. When she realized I wasn't going to argue with it, her voice softened slightly. "Is that what you wanted?" she asked. I leaned back in my chair. "Vanessa," I said, "I spent years making myself smaller so you could feel secure. If I wanted to humiliate you, I could have done it a long time ago." She swallowed. "Then why now?" she asked. I answered simply. "Because you were about to marry into a family where truth matters," I said, "and I wasn't going to stand at your wedding as your cautionary tale." Her eyes flicked down and back up. "I didn't think I was that bad," she said. I nodded slightly. "I believe you," I said. "I believe you told yourself you were being honest, or realistic, or protective." She flinched at the words. "But you weren't," I continued. "You were using me." She stared at me, blinking hard. "I didn't mean to," she said. "I know," I said. "Intent and impact are different." She looked away, jaw tight, then back at me. "Mark's family thinks I'm cruel," she said. "Lena told me they're reconsidering everything about me." I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to pile on. The consequences were already doing their work. Finally, I said, "What did you expect them to think?" Her breath hitched. "I don't know," she whispered. "I didn't expect any of this." I watched her hands. They were still moving, small, restless motions. "Caleb asked me why I talked about you like that," she said. "He asked me if I respected you." Her eyes filled again. "I didn't know how to answer," she admitted. That was the most honest thing she'd said. I kept my voice calm. "Vanessa, if you don't know whether you respect your own sister, that's not a relationship problem," I said. "That's an identity problem." She nodded slowly, like the words hurt but also fit. Then she looked up again, and this time the emotion in her face was different, less defensive, more exposed. "I'm sorry," she said. I waited. Not because I needed drama, but because I needed clarity. "Sorry for what?" I asked. She swallowed. For making you the comparison, she said. For talking about you like you were embarrassing. For treating you like you were less. I nodded once. Thank you, I said. Her eyes widened slightly, like she expected me to forgive her instantly or punish her. When neither happened, she looked confused. That's it? She asked. That's all you're going to say? Yes, I said, because I'm not going to manage your feelings for you anymore. She sat very still. Then her voice dropped. Can we fix this? She asked. I didn't answer quickly. I looked at her and thought about years of family dinners, holidays, little comments disguised as jokes, the careful way my parents would pivot back to Vanessa when a conversation drifted toward me. Then I spoke in the same measured tone I use when setting courtroom boundaries. Not right now, I said. Her face tightened again. Why not? She asked. Because you need to figure out who you are without needing me beneath you, I said. If you want to do that work, you can. If you don't, nothing changes. She stared at the floor. My mom wants family therapy, she said quietly. She thinks if we all talk, it will fix it. I shook my head once. Step 1, I said, and I watched her eyes lift slightly at the structure. You get individual therapy, real therapy, not image management. She flinched but didn't interrupt. Step 2, I continued. You stop rewriting the story so you're the victim and I'm the cause. Her lips trembled. Step 3, I said. You show consistency over time. Not a dramatic apology, not a public post, not a performance. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to be someone else, she whispered. I kept my voice steady. Then learn, I said. She nodded slowly, like the idea scared her. At the door, she paused. I am proud of you, she said, almost awkwardly, like she didn't know how to hold the sentence. 12 years. I didn't know. I should have known. I nodded once. I know, I said. She left without another argument. When the door closed, the room felt lighter, not because everything was healed, but because I had stopped pretending it was. That evening, I went home and did small, ordinary things. I wiped down the kitchen counters. I folded laundry. I watered the few plants I keep alive without